Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Nerd Soup. My name is Reuben, and on today's episode I will be reviewing The Last of Us Season 2 Episode 3, The Path. And before I get into today's episode, I want to let you guys know that you can listen to this wherever you get your podcasts, probably. And if you want more Nerd Soup, you can go ahead and check out our Patreon page. And if you're looking for some just more regular movie reviews, we're uploading those exclusively to our podcasting platforms. So we just did Sinners. Some people have been asking us, where's the Sinners review? It's up there, and we both really liked it. So that's me and Aaron. And Aaron will probably be back next week for our episode 4 review of The Last of Us. But yeah, go ahead and follow us on social medias as well, at Nerd Soup, at Beau Soup, and give Aaron a follow, at Nerd Soup Monkey. I'm sure he's complaining about sports or people complaining about things that he likes. That's what social media is for, right? That's what I do on Blue Sky. Give me a follow on Blue Sky too, why not? Yeah, and getting into today's episode, Season 2, Episode 3, The Path. Good episode. Really good episode. I like how it was slower. It really was an episode in mourning. That's what it very much felt like, with the scenes of Tommy cleaning Joel's body, and then Ellie recovering for 3 months after witnessing the death of Joel, going into his house and, slowly walking through and taking it all in, the memories, the relationship that they had together, and finally breaking down when she touches his jackets. I love how Joel was like a cartoon character, always had a similar fit. And even jumping ahead to when Ellie visits Joel's grave and she puts the coffee beans, it's a nice gesture, remembering the good times, especially after their relationship became a little bit more rocky. That's what always happens when you lose someone. It's always the good times that you're going to remember most. But we do see when Ellie is, when she wakes up in the hospital, she's still in that moment of watching Joel's death. It's not even a flashback. It's more like a hallucination. So fast forwarding 3 months to where she tells Gail, I'm totally fine. That's not true. Just based on the way that she's operating in this episode. Up until a certain point, she's really trying to wear that mask of someone who is fine. And of course, she's upset and heartbroken over Joel's death. But the mission to go and find Abby and her crew is more about justice. That's how she's trying to frame it. That's how she frames it in the town meeting when she's giving that speech. But that line that Gail says to Tommy about Ellie being a liar and how you can't really help everyone. Certain people are stuck in their ways, that there is a path in front of them that they are going to walk, regardless of what you say or do. So I thought that ended up being a very impressive performance there by Bella Ramsey, delivering that speech, not only the writing of it, fitting the characters' intentions, trying to deceive this community in a way that's really pulling at their heartstrings and pulling at this idea of loyalty, that if something was to happen to any of us, you would want for there to be justice over your death or someone who is close to you. It's probably the best possible speech she could have given in this moment to try and convince the council and try and convince the crowd that this would be the right thing to do. And I appreciated getting all the different perspectives, not all of them, but a few perspectives. You can kind of tell that it's been a long meeting with all the names crossed off of people who wanted to speak. And you're also really hoping the town says yes, not just because you want revenge against Abby, but because you want to save Ellie from herself. Because if she doesn't get the approval, what is she going to do on her own? And then giving Seth the speech where he agrees with Ellie, to me it came off as very I don't know, it's strange. This is an interaction that does happen in the game, what Seth did in episode 1. And it's really a moment to show how Ellie, even when she's being verbally abused by someone, she doesn't want that help from Joel because of the tension in their relationship. To me, it felt a little strange. It was the only thing that was off about this episode. I mean, I guess it's fine that they tried to give him this sort of redemption. I didn't need it. I don't think that the character of Ellie necessarily appreciated it as much as Seth thought that she would. But, there's a moment of, okay, yeah, thanks, Seth. Thanks for speaking out, but you're still a dick and very grumpy and unpleasant to be around. But yeah, go Seth. But the standouts of this episode are both Bella Ramsey and Isabella Merced, who to me are just so adorable. The chemistry between them, it's so endearing, and the way that it kind of ebbs and flows between friendship and romance, platonic. It's interesting the way they're grappling with identity when Dina says, "I'm straight, you're gay," so maybe that kiss doesn't mean anything, but the tension between them is very positive. And I think many people can relate to being in a situationship where you're trying to figure out exactly what this is, and a bit of a love triangle brewing between Ellie, Dina, and Jesse, and how they both have a lot of love for Jesse, and Dina feels a bit responsible for Jesse's depression and being overwhelmed by his responsibilities. Because of how important Jesse is to the community, Dina feels like she's giving him extra baggage. So yeah, no, it's complicated, the relationship between these three characters, and what makes it even more complicated is just how much love and respect they have for one another. They're still young, still figuring things out, but yeah, the scenes between the both of these characters throughout this season have been amazing. They really do carry this episode. Their first interaction after Ellie is released from the hospital, Dina just knows how to talk to Ellie. She knows the perfect way to build up to the reveal of her having the knowledge of Abby's whereabouts. And even though Ellie is upset, she doesn't completely snap. And then little things like her offering Dina a cookie in return, showing that, okay, I was upset initially, but here's a cookie. It's those little details that really build their friendship and relationship. It's just moments like this that suggest there's a past here, that they know so much about each other. Their tics, the things that are going to set them off, and the things that are also going to calm them down a bit. And then even the scene between Ellie and Tommy, when they're talking about the idea of sending out a party to find Abby, and how Tommy wants to follow the rules. He's not necessarily against the idea, but he wants to bring it to the town and to Maria, so it can be officially sanctioned, if you want to say. But Tommy is also grappling with the death of his brother, and that was also a beautiful scene. The way that the lighting becomes, orange and rusty. It is sundown for their relationship. And, hearing him say, "Give Sarah my love." Sometimes I forget about the character of Sarah and what happened to Joel initially. And that's such an important part of why he makes that decision to save Ellie. So just hearing her name made me emotional in that moment. And I think the way that Gabriel Luna has been delivering on these emotional moments, this is his best one yet. He's a fantastic actor, and there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of sorrow, there's a lot of anger in that moment because of how complicated and messy Joel was as a person. But at the end of the day, that's his brother. For a long time, that was the only family he had in this post-apocalyptic world. Now he's obviously got Marie, his son, and Ellie, who is basically his niece. So when he brings her in for that hug, that was a great moment too. But yeah, the goodbye between the two brothers, very difficult to watch, but also a very touching moment for those characters. And the first time that we don't have Pedro Pascal in this show, and people seem to think that I hate Pedro Pascal as this character. I think I had problems with the performance and really more so the writing and the characterization, but his presence was definitely missed. It's really hanging over this episode. That's apparent when you have such a big presence in your show, essentially the lead. You're changing over now from Pedro Pascal as Joel to Bella Ramsey as Ellie. It's a radical shift for the show and for the audience as well. So yeah, it was tough. When they take him out of the opening credits, his silhouette is no longer there. When Ellie is going through the big empty house, there's that feeling of walking through somebody's house after they've passed away. It always feels so empty. You're going through all of their stuff and the things that they loved and how they kept things. It's like you're walking amongst ghosts. It becomes almost a surreal experience because there are all these signs of life, yet that person is gone. But yeah, all the scenes of them remembering Joel, honoring Joel, mourning Joel were really great. And I think that HBO can sometimes run into a problem where they think characters talking or characters looking sad and contemplating or being pensive is enough. But in this episode, it really was because of just how beautiful these shots and these moments were constructed. Yeah, it's not only the acting and the writing, but it's the lighting. I think that this is one of the best shows that HBO has produced in terms of the production value and just the overall way in which it is shot. The scene of Bella Ramsey at dawn, looking over Joel's grave, absolutely stunning. You know, the scenes of them arriving in Washington and Seattle. And I loved how the city looks, just exactly how the game looks. And that was funny too. It's like when you get to a new part in a game and you think, oh, this is going to be easy. There are no enemies here. And then in the very next scene, it's motherfuckers all gadded up with armored trucks and shit. So that kind of made me chuckle. You're like, oh fuck. Not only do I have to deal with zombies, but I have to deal with motherfuckers with machine guns. But yeah, just the overall production value. You know, the first season looked great too, but this episode was quite stunning in regards to, you know, just the overall cinematography and the production. And then we also get our first look at the Seraphites. And they give us some details about, you know, a great way of framing the exposition as a curious child asking her father questions. So we get more insight into their group, their cult, how it was started, how it was developed, some of the rules and the customs that they follow, and their modes of communication, that two groups separated by a decent amount of distance can still communicate through the whistles. And that to me was always one of the more frightening aspects of the game, especially when you get that whistle and the characters look, especially when you hear a whistle and the characters look scared, and then the next whistle, they're immediately scrambling and hiding from the threat that is on their tails. But I thought that was a good first look into this group that is a bit of a minor spoiler, but their role is significant moving forward. And it's a new part of the world that fans of the show are now experiencing for the first time. And yeah, I thought the introduction was a small introduction, but kind of gives you the gist of what this group is about. They're weird. There's some weird shit going on here. And it's assumed when Ellie and Dina find their bodies that they were slaughtered by the WLF. And Dina throws up after seeing the dead child. That actually got to me. For characters that we only knew for one scene, and then in the very next scene we see them, they're dead. Brutal. You know, father and daughter being buried together. That is some really sick and twisted shit. So Dina and Ellie are in the first steps of this new journey, and they're already experiencing something so horrifying. And no signs of the zombies, no signs of the infected. It's that human on human violence that is always the scariest aspect of this show. The post-apocalyptic world, the desperation can drive people to doing such evil and wicked things. Probably my favorite scene of the episode is when Ellie's plan is rejected and she immediately goes, okay, I'm just going to do this by myself. And she's at the crafting table. She's getting all her gear ready. And she hears that bang on the door, and you know it's Dina. And Dina instantly knows what Ellie is up to and comes prepared. She's telling her, okay, this is how we're going to do this. We're going to take this amount of medicine and this amount of ammo and weapons and food and supplies. And don't you just love when you have a friend like that who does all the research beforehand? She was on Yelp, scouting all the best places to eat, some cheap hotels. Take a little detour, go and see, what do they have in Seattle? What's the tower, right? The Space Needle, yeah. Yeah, go check out the Space Needle. But I love that. Dina is a ride or die. She knows that Ellie is going to go off on her own, and that is not something she is going to allow. She's not going to stop her. She's going to go with her. So both of these characters are a bit reckless in this moment. The initial plan was to send 16, and now it's just going to be 2. There was also some tension there between Ellie and Jesse because she knows that Jesse sits on the council and his vote is going to matter. And it looks like he may have voted no. I did read that there was a scene that was cut where it is confirmed that Jesse voted no. And young Mazzino has said that he's playing Jesse as the complete opposite of Ellie, where he's a bit more buttoned up, is more willing to follow the rules. It's funny because my introduction to young Mazzino was Beef, quite literally the exact opposite of the character he's playing in The Last of Us. He's so immature, so goofy, it's really hard to respect him. And when I see him in this, I'm like, man, this guy's a general. I'd follow him into battle. Like, Ellie, Dina, you need to listen to this big, hunky, buff man. You know, he just seems so serious. He's caught between his responsibility to Jackson and also his loyalty to his friends. So it's always a difficult position to be in. So when he's training Ellie and she challenges him a bit there, I felt bad for Jesse. He's trying his best. Yeah, and some of the highlights of this episode were Bella Ramsey acting by herself when she's having that breakdown in Joel's house. I'm so impressed by the way she's able to switch between being cocky and arrogant and a bit of a dick to being a kid again. being overwhelmed by your emotions and sitting with them in ways that remind you of how young and how innocent Ellie was in that first season, and how, Gail says that she was walking side by side on that path with Joel, and that nurture can only do so much. But, I think you can argue that she was a bit corrupted by what happened in season 1, and especially with what she witnessed at the end of the last episode. But as I mentioned, she could still be very cocky and annoying in ways that are funny for us, but a nuisance for the characters that are trying to help her. So when she has that scene with Gail where she's like, yeah, no, I'm really sad. It tormented me, but I'm all better now. Feelings, blah, 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 kind of dismissing the help. And then that long walk she takes through the hospital, the transformation, the way that the lighting becomes a bit more dim, and her face becomes way less animated, almost lifeless, like she's got tunnel vision in that moment. She knows what she's going to do, whether or not she gets the approval from Tommy, Marie, or the rest of Jackson. It's inevitable. So in that regard, I guess Gail is correct. There's nothing that anybody can say or do other than to just help her along. And the scene with Tommy and Gail made me laugh because I thought it was a flashback. I thought this was Gail just remembering when she was watching her son or her grandson play Little League. Like, they really have perfectly stitched jerseys. They've got paid umpires that came from a town over. They've got a cooler with beer, and it's just unbelievable, all the stuff that they have at this place. I could go for like a 2-week vacation at Jackson, Wyoming, come back refreshed, as long as they don't put me on any patrols, because I can't really handle weapons. But, watch a movie, play some Little League, crack open some beers, smoke some weed at the 7-Eleven. It's got everything I would want. But that conversation in particular was sad for Tommy, because when you have to step up as the new parental figure, and you're so worried about someone who is now family, someone you consider to be like your niece, and what they're going to do, how they're going to respond to the death of someone who was so important in their life and who was so influential. And it's interesting that Ellie's the one keepsake that she grabs is Joel's gun. It's not any of the other items that will remind her of Joel's memory and the times that they've had, but it's the one thing that symbolizes violence, which was something that was very important in their relationship, and something I wish they would have emphasized more in season 1, but just the terrible things that the both of them had to do in order to survive. That is something very special, a key part of their relationship. So even though it is sad to see her grab for the gun, it's something that's not out of character for Ellie or Joel. And that's something that's going to be weighing on Tommy's mind moving forward, is I care about this person, I want to keep her safe, but she is so dead set on this path of revenge and violence. He's going to have to make a choice between staying back and protecting Jackson and protecting the new family that he now has, or protecting someone else that he also considers family. So yeah, he's worried, and he's someone who reaches out to Gail, and Gail mentions that, she's doing this session free of charge. It is always so funny, dude. It was like when Larry David's trying to get the doctor to look at his back.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a writer.
Next time you're in a big hurry, why don't you write me a bunch of shit for free?
Certain professions, you just think they can do this on a dime. They don't need any preparation. We're both here, right? We're both sitting down. It's basically therapy. And I mentioned the Seraphites. This episode also gives more backstory for the WLF, Abby's group, how there were all these disparate militias fighting against Fedra, but never quite united under one umbrella like the Fireflies had wanted. So now you have all these disparate groups that some are operating, some aren't, and it looks like we're going to see more of Abby's group and the higher command in the next episode. And then we see the armed WLF at the end. That's fun for the audience. It gives us something to look forward to. How do these groups work? Who are some of the higher ups, some of the more significant characters in the WLF outside of Abby and her crew? And God, what they're teasing for the weeks ahead when it comes to Seattle. I mean, this was one of my favorite parts of the game, and obviously it's not going to be a one-to-one. Like the way that they expanded on Jackson so far, a lot of that stuff we didn't get in the game, and it's something I wanted when I played it. I thought, man, I could have spent another hour or two at Jackson, just kind of enjoying all the amenities. They should have done more mini games. They didn't do the snowball fight, which was actually a little upsetting. I kind of wish they would have done that. But yeah, for what they're teasing in the weeks ahead, it looks like it's going to be so violent and not only physically challenging, but psychologically. You see some of the shots and some of the moments, and you're like, God, what have they put these characters through to get them to that point? But yeah, the anticipation is sky high for me. And I think that this is an episode that could have been really boring, but it wasn't. Not for a second. I would say that this was kind of the perfect episode to follow what we got in the last episode, where you have the big battle, your lead character's killed off. How do you deal with that? How are the characters going to deal with that? And it felt very relatable. And there was a lot of humanity throughout this episode, and in the moments where characters are in mourning or characters are talking about what comes next. And that was what was also very impressive about this episode, is that each scene is building towards a new step in the narrative. It's not just characters standing still, but it's characters moving forward while also reflecting on what has happened. So yeah, I thought that this overall was a great episode. Nothing really to complain about except for, the Seth redemption arc, which is not, it's more of a nitpick. I just found that to be a little silly. It almost reminded me of This Is Us. It was just one of those moments where you wanted sad music to start playing, like, oh man, Seth, you're a bigot, but you wanted to avenge Joel. That should actually, maybe they're playing it more as like a warning, where Ellie hates Seth, and the fact that he's the only one who's really agreeing with her so passionately should be a red flag. But her thirst for revenge is stronger than her hatred for Seth. She's like, Seth, I hate you because you're a bigot, but at the very least, you're not a pussy. So, all right, guys, that is going to do it for our review of The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 3, The Path. We will be back next week for Episode 4. Based on the trailer ahead, I'm really looking forward to that episode. My goodness, what the fuck is going to happen to these two sweethearts? These two young kids in love, will they, won't they? Oh my god, here comes a zombie. This shit is really turning out to be some fun television. I'm really rocking with The Last of Us Season 2, man. I'm rocking with it. I'm getting hype. And then Jeffrey Wright next week? Woo! Let's fucking go, man. And then Ari coming back? Come on.